Anyone can talk football. Not everyone can do it East Coast style. The East Coast Gridiron Podcast, starting now.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back.
It
to
is
episode
great to be
2
back.
of the. Excuse me, trying to get over this this little infection that I had, but welcome back to the East Coast Gridiron Podcast, episode number 2. Shout out to Rosanna. How's it going? So we're here on Facebook Live once again.
Yes, we are.
To get this all kicked off, man. We're in not wild card weekend, divisional weekend.
round. Yep.
And as you see, the man to my left, the stats guru, back once again.
Back again. Glad to be back in studio.
Hey, man, I've been super excited about this episode because of the little segment that we're going to have at the end of the show.
Yes.
And we're going to go over some stats and things because
Yep.
you are the stats guru. We got 3 interesting stats for you guys as far as the season and how the wild card weekend and everything went as well. So if you guys have been looking out on Facebook and looking at all the interesting things that happened, and can't wait for Don to get into his rant about the Eagles later on, which is going to be one of our segments. So it's everybody's favorite couch quarterback, Dante, here. And like I already introduced him, my man to the left, the stats guru.
Yep. Dante makes it happen, and I'm here to give you some support number-wise.
Yep. Oh, look at it. It's frozen. Going to go ahead and restart his camera right there. There we go. So back in studio once again. I don't know what's going on with these cameras today, but that's fine.
That's all right.
Bit of technical
We'll make it
difficulties.
work.
We got some little delays going here and here.
They don't have to. They don't have to see us. They just hear the voices. They'll be good.
Yeah, it's all good. So check us out as far as the voices, and like you said, check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, all that good stuff. Any of your favorite streaming platforms, we're or listening platforms, streaming platforms too. Later on, we'll start going back to YouTube and things like that. But listen to us on all those good platforms. So let's go ahead and get over to these topics, man. First topic that we had. First of all, I know me and Nelson talked about the national championship before it happened. I think collectively all 3 of us had chose Alabama to go in there and win that thing, and they did.
Yes, they did.
That game could have been an absolute rout if they really wanted it to.
No, they put a beating on Ohio State, but it could have been a lot worse. I agree.
Thanks, Rob, for the shout out there. You can still hear us fine. Appreciate you, bro.
That's good. Randy's on there too.
Oh, Randy.
Yeah. Hey, Randy.
Hey, we'll get into a little bit of Trevor Lawrence stuff later. But yeah, the national championship, man, was just an absolute rout, and it could have been worse. I think Nick Saban, like I was telling people, this team this year was like absolutely. People were saying the LSU team was pretty good last year. This team was just an absolute. I don't know, man. They play like a family. Like I was telling Nelson last week, they absolutely playing like a family, and I never seen Nick Saban lose his mind less times ever in his career than he did this year. So, what's your thoughts around the national championship?
Well, hey, 13-0 for Alabama. They did play more games than Ohio State, so that kind of begs the question to come up: if Ohio State would have played more games, could it have been more competitive game?
Right.
I don't think so. I really don't. When you got somebody like Mac Jones, who completed 77.4% of his passes in his career, that's the highest in FBS history. Then he had 464-yard game in the championship game. That's the most in the college football playoffs or BCS championship. 5 touchdowns in a game. That tied the record for most in SEC history. Najee Harris, 57 career touchdowns. He tied for the most in SEC history. 30 touchdowns alone this year. That's the most in SEC history. I mean, just those 2 alone would kind of let you know, hey, we got something special here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then they throw in a wide receiver.
Heisman winning wide receiver, probably the best wide receiver we ever played in college, in such a short span of a season.
Oh yeah.
In 10 games for Davonte Smith to did what he did is nothing to scoff at. And I mean, we had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson last year to look at.
I mean, this year alone, the kid had 23 touchdowns. That's the most in SEC history. In that championship game alone, 12 receptions, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that kid's something special, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I mean, would Justin Fields be doing the same thing if he had those weapons? Now, I know Don gave out the stats, but you got to go down the line, man. Mac Jones, best quarterback in the country. We're talking about the awards that came out.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, best running back in the country.
Yep.
And I mean, Heisman winner and best wide receiver went to Davonte Smith. Now, I know it was a route, and I can't just move past the fact that Justin Fields did play pretty well for the situation that he was given. I mean, that Ohio State team had some hurt players. He didn't. I mean, you can't just compare the two. I mean, Alabama, I'll always say they reload players like a machine gun.
Right.
I mean, he's got a pretty good wide receiver out there, but I mean, for him to be hurt, it was obvious that he was hurt that whole game.
Yep.
And with that being said, man, I honestly think if you flip roles, I think Mac Jones is a pretty decent quarterback. I mean, by his efficiency, he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time in college. I mean, literally in one season. You have to think about this. You can't take that away from it as far as when it comes to the stats, right? But could Justin Fields do the same thing?
Well, I mean, consider Justin Fields' career stats in college. I mean, he had a 68.4% completion ratio. His touchdown to interception rates are 67 touchdowns to 9 picks. 9 single digits here. Okay. Threw for over 5,000 yards, rushed for over 1,100 yards, had a 4.4 yard rushing average, and 19 rushing touchdowns. I mean,
and I believe Trevor Lawrence had like 17 picks his career.
Yeah. Justin Fields, if he had a different setting, you swapped roles there. Yeah, I think you'd be talking about how special he is.
Mac Jones has 7 interceptions his whole career.
Yeah.
I mean, keep that in mind, people. Like, the only reason, and I know Don agrees with me when it comes to this. Now, quote me if I'm wrong. If you now disagree with me after things have panned out, but think about the fact that Justin Fields could have won the Heisman last year if he would have played in all those games.
If he would have played those
there was like
games,
4 or 5 games that he was taken out of because they were absolutely killing people. The Maryland game, for example, they went up like 70 on Maryland last year. That's always been my argument. I mean, I think he's going to be one of the first Ohio State quarterbacks that we've seen in a very long time that comes out and actually has success. I can't really name off the top of my head an Ohio State quarterback that's had success. And I know we were talking before the show
neither
about
can Randy.
Well, I know this hurts me to say, but Randy, out of all the quarterbacks, I'm going to have to go with Kyle Trask being the most talented.
Uh-oh.
Now, that's just me and what I've seen with my own eyeballs. Now, was this the greatest performance that we've seen by Davonte Smith in one half? Or by any player in one half in the national championship? I mean, 200-plus yards. What do you have, 2 or 3 touchdowns? Like 11 or 12 catches?
12 receptions, 3 touchdowns. That's a game.
Absolutely a game.
Wow. But he does have a knock as far as people projecting him to the NFL. They a lot of people were picking on that 6'1", 175 frame. Is he going to hold up in the NFL? I mean, I'm sure he's going to put on some muscle and put on a little bit of weight, but, you know, is he going to take the physicality of the NFL?
That's a good question, man. I mean, you got Deshaun Jackson, and let's not forget about Randy Moss.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do in the league. That right there kind of gives me confidence. And like I was telling Don, it's just like fighting. If you don't get hit, you don't get hurt.
This is true.
You know? And not to go back on the game itself, but what was Ohio State thinking that Tough Borland over the middle was going to cover Davonte Smith in any type of foot race?
Yeah.
The greatness of Nick Saban. There was a comment, and then we can move on, but there was a comment on ESPN. Somebody commented and said that I'm tired of seeing the same teams playing the championship games. You got to stop Nick Saban. I mean, 8 conference teams play him a year.
Yep.
He is 21-0 against his former assistants.
Yep.
There's no excuses. If anybody knows him well, it's the assistants.
That's right.
This just tells you how great that Nick Saban is, man. 21-0. So after the performance, does Ohio State look different if they played more games? They played more than 7 games.
Yeah, I think they would look different, but I still say if they would have made the Final Four, if they got to the championship game, I don't think it would have changed the outcome, though. Might not have been as big of a blowout, depending on how Justin Fields' physical condition was, but they were not going to beat Alabama.
So we just have to assume with more games comes more injuries, too.
True.
So, I mean, you always got to include that as a realistic factor into anything that you're doing when you're actually discussing more games. I don't think so. I think they were already prepared to play for the season, and regardless of when they came in there. Do I think the Northwestern game where he threw 3 picks, would that have looked different with more games? Possibly,
yeah.
Because you're playing more teams in your conference too, and you're kind of getting. I don't think Northwestern gets there after playing more games, but I mean, you got teams like Penn State who really didn't do that well either. Let's be totally realistic about it. Where does Justin Fields get drafted now?
I still say he's probably going to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks taken in the draft. I mean, you got some interesting names in the top 6. I mean, of course, as Randy mentioned, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the kid, if he gets put on a pro team that supports him like he had the support in college, he's going to have a successful career.
You think so?
I think so. I don't think he's going to be outstanding. I think he'll be successful. Now, NFL teams are not all like the Patriots were under Belichick and Brady, where you have the same team being so superior for so long. So the up and downs of the NFL, will Trevor Lawrence actually succeed going up and down, up and down, up and down? Don't know.
So this might be an interesting question, or Heather says he's going to the Steelers. Randy said the Jets. I don't think he's going to the Jets because I think Robert Saleh is going to come in there and keep Sam Darnold, which
that's another topic.
We got a really good topic coming up about that later. But is it a chance that with Urban Meyer being with the Jaguars that he contacts Ryan Day and says, "Hey, this is my take on what Justin Fields can probably provide your offense more than what Justin Fields can." Does he trust the old trusty dusty Ryan Day, or does he go with Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, there's a handful of quarterbacks that it's going to be interesting to see where they go. I mean, with Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, who you talked about earlier, and then you see the name Trey Lance bouncing around as well.
Yeah.
So
Trey Lance played 1 game. That's not enough to convince me. And in Division 2 or Division 1 AA, but Randy said no. I know, man. I'm sorry. I honestly think Justin Fields, man, just the way that I don't think the national championship performance that he had has no bearing on how good this guy is going to be. If anything, I think it shows you that he's tough enough to be like a Matt Stafford.
Well, let me ask this. Justin Fields in the same mold as Jalen Hurts, as Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson? Is he going to be, a running and passing quarterback, Lamar Jackson? Can he be as successful as they were? Or have people figured that out and that he's not going to be as successful?
I don't know, man.
That's a tough one. I know.
It is, because I think Justin Fields is just a different breed.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think he wants to use his legs like Lamar Jackson does, except for to get himself out of trouble and see if there's a opening to run. And now he's going to even be more hesitant getting hurt.
True.
That hit was scary, man. I mean, let's completely think about this right now. Like, is he a little bit more hesitant with the feeties now? So yeah, I mean, there's nothing else that really came out of college football other than the national championship. And I mean, we could talk on and on and on about where Trevor Lawrence is going to get drafted, and we'll talk about that more. I think our opinions are going to matter a little more depending on what quarterbacks are going to go to the pro day, what quarterbacks are going to go to the combine. How does the combine look this year? Is it going to look completely different with the COVID protocols? That's something that we didn't see really last year.
That's right.
But now it's like in full effect. Fan base will bolt. Fields is good. Fan base would be happier for 3 losing seasons with Lawrence than going for a quick winning season with Fields.
That's an interesting thought.
That's an interesting thought there, Randy. Now, I mean, pose the question to the chat. What if Urban Meyer takes Kyle Trask? How would you feel about that, Randy? Now we need to take our Florida State bias out.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't think he's going to do that.
No, he's not going to pull the trigger on
that.
No. Of course
not going to happen.
So let us know what your guys' thoughts are on Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. And, just this whole class is going to be pretty interesting.
It is.
You got Panay that's coming out of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about that he might be the next Orlando Pace and Jonathan Ogden. Davonte Smith kind of goes in there and mixes it up now with, if the Eagles don't, if he goes out and the Eagles don't at least draft him, if he goes first and Patrick Surtain is still out there, if the Eagles do not choose one of them two in the first round, and I know we'll get to it.
We're going to get to that Eagles point.
Actually, we'll get to that right now because we're about to head over to our NFL segment.
Okay.
With everything that's happened, Doug Peterson's firing.
Yep.
To Howie Roseman, to the Laurie family. What is going on, man?
Man, the Eagles are turning into a major dumpster fire. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And a lot of this really started, it goes back to Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman being best friends. Howie did a fantastic job with the numbers and managing the cap, and he was fine there. But when they brought in Chip Kelly, and they gave Chip Kelly the GM position, Chip Kelly wanted more power, they gave it to him. Of course, they thought Chip Kelly was going to reinvent the pro game. Howie was pushed back in a broom closet somewhere and did his numbers, under a dim light and everything. And they saw that fail, epically fail. And I think between Howie and Jeff Lurie, they're like, we're never going to do that again. We're not giving that power to a coach again. Okay? When you look at it now, Doug unfortunately became the yes man for these two guys. And what do I mean by that? Well, he was with him for 5 years. Doug got him a Super Bowl in 2017. And what did he want? What did he earn? He wanted the ability to pick his own staff. I mean, when they let go some of his staff last year, Doug had a press conference at the end of the season. He was asked, are these coaches coming back? Because you struggled here, and here. Are they coming back? And he goes, yes, they're coming back.
Right.
And a day or two later, they got fired. Doug didn't fire him. That came from up top. Okay? He wants input on the draft. The coaches are in the room, but apparently from sources and reports, it's Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie that are making the picks. I mean, now Joe Douglas was there for a while, and he was input on the picks, but your coach doesn't have input? Come on. And then I found the most interesting one this week, I heard, from a very credible source in Philly. The game day roster was set this year by Howie Roseman. Doug didn't have input on who his starters were. Now, how do you take a coach and not giving the ability to pick his own staff, have input on the draft, not pick his own starters per se. I mean, Doug wanted Jalen Hurts in earlier this year.
Yep.
Roseman and Lurie did not. They saw that contract that they're going to be paying out to Wentz. They wanted Wentz. So it was an internal struggle. Wentz didn't like what Doug was doing because he knew Doug wanted Jalen Hurts. So there was a rift there. That's going to have a big input on who the next coach is because Howie and Doug want Carson. What coach in their right mind is going to come to Philadelphia knowing that we're going to pick your coaches for you. We're going to pick the draft picks for you. And we're going to tell you who your starters are every game day. Who would want in their right
That's
mind?
not really coaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, to your point, Doug Peterson, even me watching the interviews with him, I mean, he wanted Jalen way earlier than in the season, you know, when they really did have a chance to start making the playoffs as well. Now, do you think the decision to put Sudfeld in was just kind of a kick in the face to the front office as well?
It could be, you know, 2 to 3 weeks before that game.
Didn't really work out for him.
I know.
You know,
I know. 2 to 3 weeks before that game, Doug was he has a weekly interview on one of the Philly radio stations, and he started changing kind of the way he talked. He was a little bit different. He wasn't the open and honest guy, and he was saying, yes, I want a chance to fix Carson Wentz. Yes, I want to have input on those draft picks. So that's when the light started going on to all these things that he wasn't being allowed to do. Mm-hmm. And I think he got to the point where, yeah, okay. Now, granted, the Eagles did put on their website that Sudfeld was going to play in that game. They never said when he was coming in, how much of the game he was going to take over. You know, nothing was said formally. It was a horrible time to make the switch. If you would have put him in at halftime, it would not have been questioned. But they waited till later in the game when the game was still winnable. So then, of course, the talk is, okay, well, Doug's tanking. They want to get a higher draft pick, so they're tanking the game. It wasn't on Jalen's performance. I mean, Carson Wentz didn't even suit up that game.
Right.
I mean, why was that? Did they want him not to get hurt? Or was it to the point where him and Doug just didn't get along anymore and didn't want to have anything to do with each other? I mean, I think Doug got a bad deal here. I'm glad he's not there for his sake. But like I said, what coach in the right mind is going to want to come to Philly? And now, Deuce Staley's been on the staff for quite a long time.
And he's the best option.
And he may be the best option because of the setup. I mean, he may be the best option overall as well because he knows the system. No knock on Deuce whatsoever. At least I know they'll run the football. They won't give it to Miles Sanders and tell him run 3 times and then we don't give you the ball for 2 more quarters and then you run again. He will have a running game. So, but to understand how Lurie works, how Roseman works, Deuce might be their only option.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, if you guys Google his resume.
Yep.
Excuse me. I mean, he's worked his way up.
Yes, he has.
To being a head coach.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting. The Eagles are behind on interviewing coaches. They didn't get rid of Doug when all the other coaches were gone after the end of the season. They waited, so they're behind on the coaching search. Lurie is an offensive-minded owner. So I was glad to see some defensive coaches being interviewed because personally I'd rather have a defensive coach, but I don't think Lurie and Roseman are going to go that route. And then also, I mean, looks like their offensive line coach is going to be gone. Their linebacker coach was gone. They didn't have an offensive coordinator because Doug did all that. The defensive coordinator's gone. As soon as I saw the linebacker coach was going on Twitter, man, I'm like, sending out a tweet to Seth Joyner. I'm like, now's the time, man. You got to come in here and be
Exactly.
the linebacker coach. You know?
Well, it's a lot to take in as an Eagles fan.
It is.
We all know that. And it's hard being an Eagles fan. I mean, look at the Jaguars.
Well, take it away, man.
I know with the Jaguars, and Randy can attest to this, and I feel like I'm going to have a coughing fit again.
Oh.
But you get rid of pretty much everybody
Yep.
that's helped us out.
Yep.
That defense was
That's
considered to be the number one defense for like 2 or 3 years.
that was a great defense.
Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, who are both on the Ravens now. A.J. Boye on the Broncos. Jalen Ramsey on the Rams.
Yeah.
Ronnie Harrison on the Browns. So let's think about it. Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, playoffs. Ronnie Harrison, playoffs with the Browns. A.J. Boye, of course, he's sitting at home.
Right.
Jalen Ramsey in the playoffs.
Yep, playoffs.
And last but not least, Leonard Fournette, playoffs.
Playoffs, yes.
It's not a coincidence, man. To be completely honest, and I mean Randy knows this. Like it's about as hard as being an Eagles fan, and we understand their pain,
Yep.
especially in the immediate circumstance that they're in. And we felt this for years. I mean, Randy, I don't know when the last time that we can go and say that we really felt like that we had a true team that we can build upon. Maybe after Fred Taylor left, all those guys, Mark Brunell. And then we kind of had a resurgence when David Garrard was there.
Yep.
I never really felt good with Byron Leftwich being there in the first place. I was never a Byron Leftwich fan. But then had another resurgence.
Yep.
Blake Bortles was playing well when we had Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did we do the next year? Just gave him away to somebody else.
Yep.
So we kind of have a history of just giving people away, not balancing our checkbooks to keep these players, or not treating them good at first, just being a good team overall. So I totally understand how Eagles fans feel, man.
But
you kind of just want to give up.
I understand, but now with your new head coach, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Or is it going to be a long tunnel?
That's an interesting question, because I don't know how a lot of fans feel about it, but for Urban Meyer, first of all, Urban Meyer's health issues are always going to be a concern. But he's not managing kids anymore. He's managing grown men that have
True.
mortgages
True.
and houses to pay for and all things like that. So this might be a little different. Plus, he'll have a lot of help. He's getting his Charlie Strong is there now.
He'll get as much help as he needs.
Yes, so Charlie Strong is there. I know they just made that hire. Don't really know if he's just going to be a player personnel kind of guy or whatever. But I know he's bringing in a staff to kind of overhaul this thing.
Right.
He's had success everywhere he's gone. I can't really fault the Jaguars for making this hire. I think we just need a little spark of life, and bringing back the Florida guy might give the Jaguars that. Do I think it's the answer right now? Let's see how he drafts. Let us get through the draft first. But dang, I mean, you came into a perfect situation, my man. You handed like the whole bowl of cereal,
Yeah.
and all the milk in the world. You done got draft capital. We have so many draft picks.
No.
If anything comes from this, it's the fact that we let all these players go to get all this draft capital back, to get all this money back, to bring somebody like Urban Meyer in that builds his coaching staff.
And then
Maybe this is what we need.
Yeah. It built
You know?
a team.
I mean, if they're talking about true rebuilds for teams, this is a true rebuild.
True.
I think he's going to start getting rid of some players. Hopefully, don't get rid of players like Miles Jack and things like that are veterans on your team. I'd even say let's not draft another quarterback either. Let's see what Gardner Minshew has. I heard some rumblings of this, and I'm kind of a big fan. Deshaun Watson's from Florida. I know he wants to go back to Miami, but dang, the dude just wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
Bring him over to the Jacksonville Jaguars instead of drafting Trevor Lawrence, and because it's not a sure thing, right?
Right.
Deshaun Watson has proved this year that he doesn't need the most talented team ever to have success. This was his most successful year when it came to stats that he's ever had. And this is without DeAndre Hopkins and without a decent running back because our boy, was out this year. So with that being said, I think probably the best thing to do, you got the money, bring Deshaun Watson home, draft well, and work on that defense again. Because that defense our secondary is the worst in the league. It has to be. I know they were talking about the Seahawks for a little bit, but they came around towards the end of the season.
Yeah, they did. They picked it up the second half.
But we don't have anybody like your boy that's back there, the safety. What's his name? That came over from the Jets. Why am I drawing a blank? Jamal Adams. We don't have anybody like that anymore. So, what's his name? Wingert, though, he came number 42. White boy with the long hair. He came out of nowhere and had a resurgence towards the end of the season. He was looking pretty good, too. So, I know we can rant about the Jaguars and the Eagles all day. The similarities right now to what both teams have, I don't think that the Jaguars is as bad as a front office as what the Eagles are dealing with right now.
Right.
Because they're trying to run a team and do everything. What the Jaguars are doing is cleaning house and then seeing how things are going to be. So, I don't know, man. I'm totally at a loss of words for what the Eagles are doing. I mean, and I don't think Doug Peterson's lying. Like,
well, no, I mean, I don't think he is either. And it was interesting because when you look at the draft picks the Eagles missed on because of Howie and Lurie, they missed on the obvious, DK Metcalf. They missed on Justin Jefferson.
JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah, we'll take our Arcega-Whiteside over
CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, come on.
Look what CeeDee Lamb did with no quarterback this year.
True. Now, when I saw that tweet today that the Seahawks wanted to interview Doug for their offensive coordinator, I'm like, oh my God, he'll finally get to have DK Metcalf on his team.
And he's a quarterback whisperer too.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's already good, but he's about to tighten the screws.
Hey,
on that.
I forgot one quote in Jeff Lurie's press conference. They were talking about his inner circle, the people in his room, and the people there, and he goes, I got about 5 people in here that are, he's talking about his GMs that have, people have left and become GMs elsewhere. He said that he's got at least 5 more in his circle that'll probably be future GMs in the NFL. So they went from being a quarterback factory to a GM factory.
Dang.
Give me a break.
Well, I know we went from one Doug, and I can't wrap my segment up about the Jaguars without going to the other Dougie. Dougie Maroons.
Yeah.
Why did y'all fire him? I get the Urban Meyer hiring. I'm okay that they put the Band-Aid over the situation. Right. But you expect this man, and I know I said this on Facebook, Doug Marrone was in a forest fire with no extinguisher, man.
Yep.
And just watching the pieces around him just crumble. I don't think he was a bad coach. I mean, I know I'm wearing the Syracuse stuff right now for my wife, but that's where he came from, with Syracuse. Yeah. So, actually, my wife knew Doug Marrone.
He won about 40% of his games, and he had a winning record in the postseason.
It is what it is, man.
And when you give him a team like that, 40%'s not horrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could talk about that all day, but, it is what it is. Now, let's get over to probably the most exciting segment of this. Potential landing spots for a couple players here. Matt Stafford. It's first on the list. Where do you think he goes?
Wow. One of them I think might be kind of obvious. I think a lot of people are thinking along the same lines. I see him as a possible New England Patriot. Another possibility, and that just depends. I don't know for sure. Are the Saints, if Drew Brees retires, are they married to Taysom Hill, or does Matt Stafford go to the Saints?
That is interesting. That was way beyond my realm of what I thought was going to happen when we were going to talk about this.
Okay.
Now, it's interesting because they do have, and somebody that Sean Payton really likes, is our Florida State guy. Yeah, Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
He got his eyeballs fixed.
Yeah.
He's learning under a really good coach and the first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Top 3 quarterback of all time.
Sure.
So that's very interesting. So do you think Matt Stafford comes in, puts the Band-Aid on the situation until he retires?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jameis Winston goes somewhere else?
I definitely think it's more of a Band-Aid. I mean, a competitive Band-Aid. Okay. I think he keeps them competitive, but
I don't think anybody wins their division again if he goes down there. I like Matt Stafford, man, and I know most of us do. Me, you, and Nelson, we all feel the same way that this dude is underrated for the things that he's done. I'll take Calvin Johnson out of the equation. Whatever. Calvin Johnson, all worldly talent. I still think he's massively overrated. That's just my opinion. I think Matt Stafford goes to the Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a definite possibility.
A lot of people will say, well, that's the easy choice for any good quarterback. But there's a reason why, man. He has a lot of Tom Brady qualities.
He uses the weapons that he has. Okay? He ended up getting a tight end a couple years ago, Hawkinson. Man, he uses him. He knows how to use players. And he'll utilize the different receivers. He did spread the ball around. He didn't have like one guy he threw to.
How many close to 200-yard games or 2 or 3 touchdown games has Marvin Jones had?
Exactly.
It's not a mistake on why Matt Stafford is as good as he is and why people are raving about him. The people that do know. The people that do watch with their own eyeballs and see what he's doing.
Right.
I mean, Bill Belichick's going to get a gift. And Matt Stafford that says, I was able to learn. I mean, how many different coaches did Matt Stafford have over the year? I can learn any offense. I can read any defense. I can play on a crappy team, but I've never played on a good team. So playing on a good team is going to come even easier. Now, Patriots running backs have never been like, the greatest thing ever. But they do have some 1,000-yard backs like almost every single year.
Yep.
Matt Stafford's never had a great running back. He's never had a great offensive line. He's never had, as far as a tandem of world beater wide receivers. Now, this really, to me, depends on where Marvin Jones and people like that go after their Lions career if they decide to get traded or let go from the team. But I think his ability to take these no-name wide receivers and work with the tools that he's given and have success cannot be overlooked.
I agree.
And I think Bill Belichick's going to look at that and say, let's bring him over here. And I'm just putting this out there. I'm not there. And there's another guy that I feel the same way about that we're possibly going to see in the AFC divisional or championship game next year if these two pan out. Matt Stafford goes to the Patriots. These dudes are going to the Super Bowl. I'm letting y'all know right now.
Okay.
If they sign him in the offseason, it's over. Because now he's going to a competitive team. Even though they don't have the best weapons, that system, it works for any quarterback that is there. Look at Matt Castle when Tom Brady got hurt. And now, when the Chiefs were in come Matt Castle, and he was just okay.
That system goes back even before Tom Brady to Drew Bledsoe. I mean, you know.
Shout out to Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Next pick on here.
Okay.
Cam Newton.
All right. I think what you've said about Cam Newton has finally seeped into my brain because I do think Pittsburgh is a possible landing spot for him if Roethlisberger is done. But with the new situation coming up with Deshaun Watson maybe possibly leaving, Houston, I think, could be a landing spot.
Well, things are changing in Houston, so
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. That's kind of like a wild card,
Right.
Like you throw that
Oh,
up,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
because they actually need somebody. I think with all the quarterbacks that are coming out, I think Houston just drafts a new quarterback and just rethinks the whole thing because I think they're going to get rid of J.J. Watt in the offseason too, free up some cap room. I'm staying with my pick that I thought was this year, man. I think it makes way too much sense is Cam Newton going to Pittsburgh. And the reason for that is they're going to want to win with the weapons that they got there. They're going to want to extend Juju. We already know this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Even throughout the whole controversy with the TikTok videos and all that. Chase Claypool is one dude that needs to shut up. You just salty, bro. Like,
Yeah.
don't say that some team is going to get clapped because if the Browns end up winning, then you're just going to look even more dumb. Yep. Juju's not Antonio Brown. But one thing that I can say is what I said last year. Cam Newton's going to be able to go to a team that's going to let him be himself. Mike Tomlin is going to let Cam Newton be Cam Newton. If he goes there, this is the other team that I say is going to be in the AFC Championship game. It's going to be them and the Patriots. I can almost guarantee it. I can just see the light, Don. I can see the light. Because that Steelers team is way too talented as well.
Yeah.
And then having a quarterback that's going to... I mean, Juju's going to have a TikTok partner to do these dances. I think the factor of Mike Tomlin being a player coach and then that working to his advantage with somebody like Cam is going to be good.
But do you think Ben is done?
Ben's done.
Yeah. I mean, he caught Wentzitis there in the playoffs and just looked like Carson Wentz throwing picks. And, I would be done with him.
You know what's going to break his heart? Is when he doesn't win that comeback player of the year because Alex Smith is going to get it.
You're right there.
I mean, it is what it is. They need, and everybody's claiming that they need to name that award after Alex Smith. But it is what it is, man. Yeah. Ben, just go ahead and bring it on home, bro. Your time is up.
Yeah.
And the Steelers have never been the type of team unless, well, let's think about the Charlie Batch days, right? Unless you got somebody like Charlie Batch and there really wasn't anything open in free agency that specific year. And a lot of good quarterbacks have come out, Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, right? We're not going to see a draft like that in a very long time, unless that's this year, of course.
Right, and we'll get to that.
But they banked on Ben and it worked out. But you usually don't see the Steelers going into the draft and drafting really a quarterback really high. Right. So I don't think that's going to happen this year. They're just going to bank whatever's in free agency. So those are the two potential landing spots that are the four potential landing spots that we think are going to happen with these players. But that leads me over to two quarterbacks.
I've been waiting for this one.
That leads me over to two quarterbacks that some people see very highly, and other people see that just have a lot of potential that are just in the wrong situation. Daniel Jones versus Sam Darnold. As you remember the prediction.
Yes, Dante.
When we were
is
Go
amazing.
For Two podcast, man.
Yes,
I'm telling you, my ratio with quarterbacks is pretty good. I mean, who would you pick, Don? Out of Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, who are you going with?
I was looking at the stats. What else? They're very comparable. The stats aren't far off for completion percentage, quarterback rating, touchdowns to interception. It's almost a scary comparison. They're about the same. Both teams have potential with what they got to be a better team. But I think if I were to take both quarterbacks, put them on a successful team, I think Sam Darnold flourishes better than Daniel Jones.
I don't see it. I mean, they've tried to bring in some weapons for Sam Darnold to have success.
Right.
I can't necessarily say that about the Giants. So I'm going to have to disagree with you there. But the talent that Daniel Jones has had on the Giants with Sterling Shepard always gets hurt. Evan Ingram always gets hurt. I forget the other dude that they have there that he's always been pretty decent. But I'm going to have to take Daniel Jones. Just from looking at the stats, he edges Sam out in the efficiency category. He doesn't turn the ball over as much, but he does fumble a lot. As far as fumbles, he can't get hit. But somebody said that Sam Darnold was more mobile than Daniel Jones was.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
What? I was like, there's no way.
I won't agree with that.
Yeah, Daniel Jones has got some wheels on him when he wants to.
Yeah.
It's just if he could stay upright.
Stay upright the whole time, yes. That would help.
This is the reason why I'm picking Daniel Jones out of Sam Darnold. I've seen way too many times where Sam Darnold has thrown into triple coverage. And I just can't I don't know, man. I don't really see Daniel Jones doing that as much. When he turns the ball over, like I said, it's when he's getting hit, or just his wide receiver just decides to give up on the route. I still think he's more accurate, but I can't excuse the fact, and I don't think you can ever change that habit about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is also going into a situation where you got people like Colin Cowherd, we're talking this dude up to be the next best thing since sliced bread.
No, I never believed that either.
No. What USC quarterback has done well? Let's go down the line.
Exactly.
Carson Palmer is a Hall of Famer. Matt Leinart was probably the best quarterback ever in college. Didn't do anything. Who else? Matt Barkley.
Yeah.
Nothing. Sam Darnold. Okay. Mark Sanchez. I mean, he had like a first 3 or 4 years were pretty good for Mark Sanchez. I mean, they went to the AFC Championship twice.
Right.
But
I mean,
John David Booty. where was he at?
Yeah. I wouldn't expect a lot out of Sam Darnold based on all that, but I think he's to the point where he doesn't have a lot of weapons, and he's trying to do too much. Mm-hmm. But he's doing the wrong thing trying to do too much. That's why I say if you take him out of that situation, give him talent, give him protection, same thing with Jones, I think Darnold edges him out. But I'm not high on him, and there are things I like better about Daniel Jones. But, yeah, I think he would edge him out a little bit.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to have to stick to Daniel, man. Now, we want to talk about this divisional round a little bit.
Okay.
Not necessarily, and we'll get into the picks here. But first of all, one of the most interesting matchups of this whole weekend is going to be Jalen Ramsey versus Davonte Adams.
Yep.
Davonte Adams, I've been saying this for a couple of years too. I think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers next with Adam Thielen. And by the way, Adam Thielen almost had 1,000 yards this season with 14 touchdowns, and nobody's talking about that.
This is true. They're not.
That dude is still a high-level
Yep.
player. Justin Jefferson is great, but I think he had 7 touchdowns or something like that. Adam Thielen had 14. Davonte Adams is one of those shifty guys, runs routes really well. He's not like the fastest, but he has good breakaway game speed. He's got excellent hands. And like I said, his route tree ability is probably the best in the National Football League. I think him and probably your boy from the Chargers are probably the 2 best route runners in the NFL. But Jalen Ramsey is a very physical cornerback, and this is why DK Metcalf, if he does not get over the hump with at least trying to expose Jalen Ramsey, then it is what it is. But I think, for the most part, Davonte Adams, this might be the first time that Jalen Ramsey gets pretty exposed.
If I had to put numbers to it as a percentage of the times that they interact, I'd say 65-35 that Adams would win, but that's based on his own ability, but also based on the quarterback that he has. because I don't think everybody could get the ball to him the way Aaron Rodgers does.
Okay. I can agree with that.
Okay.
And you know, that relationship with him and Aaron Rodgers is something special.
It is.
I mean, because it's almost really weird how fluid it is. It's almost like he knows Davonte's going to be in the place before he even gets there, which anticipation, every quarterback has that, blah, 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 blah. But the way that their relationship is, by the ball coming out the hand to being in Davonte's hands is something special. I honestly think Davonte Adams should be talked about being one of the league MVPs too. He was exposing people. But we haven't really seen Jalen Ramsey, other than go against DeAndre Hopkins, throughout the years.
Yeah.
Have semi-success sometimes. It's almost like a flip of a coin who's going to get the better.
Right.
But going up there in that cold, man.
That's it.
Going against, this is another guy from the South that's played in the South, Jacksonville. You went right over to the Rams in California, so you're always playing in nice weather. And Aaron Rodgers in cold weather is not a guy that you want to go against. So I got to give Davonte the edge on this one.
I agree with you.
All right, so now for the divisional pick'ems, man. Which is the first game that we want to talk about here?
You want to, since we were talking Packers, you want to go Packers Rams?
Yeah, let's go Packers Rams.
All right. Well, the line opened at 7 and it stayed at 7. So they have the Packers as a 7-point favorite. I'll tell you what I got, and you can tell me who you got, and we can feed in Nelson's picks too, right?
Yep, we're going to feed in Nelson's picks.
All right. A lot of people are saying this is really going to be a close game because of the Rams defense. And I do think the Rams defense is tough. I do think they're going to play well. The quarterback they wanted to start is still injured, not starting. You got Jared Goff starting, busted up thumb. I don't think it's going to be as close as everybody says. I got the Pack winning 30-17.
I would have to agree with that. I don't think this game is going to be necessarily that close. And I think that that matchup we're going to be watching all day with Davonte Adams and Jalen Ramsey is going to be one that once Aaron Rodgers exposes that, I think it's just going to be pick them all the way down the field all day long.
And I think Green Bay's defense has gotten better against the run as the season's come along. So, Akers might have a decent game, but he's going to be the majority of their offense. I would not put it on Jared Goff.
Yep. And, I'm not a big fan of Jared Goff. And Jared Goff doesn't really show up in big games. And being in that cold with that thumb surgery too,
right?
That's got to play a factor. Nelson has got the LA Rams come short to the Packers 23-24. So he's got it as a 1 point.
He's got the close game. Okay. A lot of people are picking that very close.
Yeah, but collectively we got the Packers winning that. So we'll head over to Nelson's team, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. The line opened at 2.5. Bills were 2.5 favorite. It's dropped to 2. So money's starting to go the other way.
I'll take the 2.
Go ahead.
I got the Bills winning, man.
Okay.
Close game.
Close game.
That's all I'm taking the 2.
All right. I see a close game too. I think this is going to be one of the best games to watch. And I don't know whether it comes down to a late Justin Tucker field goal or what, but I got the Ravens pulling this out 27-24.
Well, that was your Super Bowl pick. So,
yes.
Of course you're going to pick that. Anyways, we got Nelson's picking the Bills.
Yeah, big surprise there.
That's why I had to huff, because that's his team.
That's his team. I don't blame him.
Yeah, but he's got a close game, 20-13, so
yeah,
he's almost at the spread.
Bills are at a good point right now, and they should be favored to win this game, but we'll see. It's going to be a good game to watch.
Yeah. So Kansas City and Cleveland. So I'll start with Nelson's pick here because He says that Kansas City is going to blow out Cleveland Browns 42-24. Now, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that and say that this is going to be my upset.
Oh.
I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to let anything happen to the Cleveland Browns not being anywhere less than a Super Bowl this year.
Wow.
So, it is what it is.
Well, Catherine will be happy with that.
Oh, yeah. I know a bunch of Browns fans.
I think this is going to be I didn't check the over on this, but it opened at 9.5, Chiefs 9.5 point favorites, and it went up to 10. I don't think the Chiefs cover the 10. I do think they win the game. They may win it on a late touchdown, but I got them 37-31.
I believe this is going to be a shootout, though.
Yeah.
I believe it's going to be like something in the 30s or the 40s in a close game.
Yep.
But I got the Browns squeaking it out.
There you go.
And then my Super Bowl, they weren't my Super Bowl winner,
Right.
but they were in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to have to go with Tampa Bay versus New Orleans.
Okay.
And I don't even think this is going to be a close game.
Oh.
I believe it's going to be like 24-3.
Now, you realize the Saints beat the Buccaneers twice this year.
I don't care.
Okay. I'm just making sure, man.
The Buccaneers got better towards the end of the season.
Yes, they did. And the Saints,
Antonio Brown is now clicking with Tom Brady.
And the Saints'
scary.
defense got much better towards the end of the season.
Depends on if Leonard Fournette can actually catch a pass out of the backfield and do something with it. Because Ronald Jones is way better than him at that. But we'll see.
Well, I do see a close game, and I do see the Saints coming together for Brees and taking a 31-27 win. Who's Nelson have in that one?
So Nelson actually has New Orleans.
Okay.
24-20.
Yeah, close game.
So you guys got the sweep.
Okay.
I necessarily think
It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. I will say that. Statistically, it's probably not going to happen if you base it on that fact alone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's our pick'ems for the divisional round. Before we get to the nothing but the facts segment.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but the stats. Nothing but the stats, not
Yeah.
the facts. Nothing but the stats is coming up next, but I did want to head over to somebody did ask a question on Facebook. Rosanna, Charlie, Ashley, Bella.
All right.
Love the name. I have a question about what you think about the Dallas Cowboys should do with the 10th overall pick in the draft. Seeing we need a quarterback in all defense positions.
So let's start with that question. Quarterback. Do you think Dak is going to be the quarterback for them when he comes back?
Yes.
I do too.
I believe he gets paid too.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't believe he gets paid like in the offseason. I believe he gets paid. It's going to be one of them contracts that happen towards the beginning of the season.
Okay.
Like week 1 or week 2. Most definitely.
And the other part of the question was about the defense, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What should they do with the 10th overall pick?
You know,
the quarterback or all some defense?
That's the strangest team when it comes to defense because, man, their defensive line is killer, but they just couldn't put anything together this year.
No, their secondary sucks. It's like
so,
the Eagles.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest concern.
I'd say if Patrick Surtain is out there for anybody that needs a secondary position, he's the best.
I've seen a couple mock drafts, and I see the Cowboys with him. So,
they do have him with him. I haven't looked at any mock drafts. I don't really like to look at them until after the combine, anyways.
Yep.
Because people change their minds all the time on what they need.
Right.
Plus, and then after free agency as well.
Sure.
Free agency. I mean, if the Cowboys go and snatch up, I don't know, somebody like Xavier Howard, who's going to get an extension with the Dolphins.
Right.
But if he became a free agent or something, then, it is what it is.
Right.
So let's go ahead and head over to the special segment that we got. Looking at the frozen camera, though. Reconnected. Bam.
Yeah, we definitely want to reconnect that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Let me move you down a little bit.
Okay.
Too. Bam.
There we
go. All right.
All right. Nothing but the stats. I got 3 for you. And these are not ones that I've sent to put up on Facebook, even though we've had some really good stats up there. So,
usually Don's the one, and whenever you guys see the stats, I usually get them from him. So.
Now one of them has to do with something you did post, and that's the first one.
Okay.
And I will steal a little bit of that one. We're going to title the first stat, the History Channel matchup. And that's Tom Brady, Drew Brees. They go head-to-head. They are number 1 and number 2 in terms of yards and touchdowns in NFL history. And this will be the first playoff game since at least 1950 between a number 1 and a number 2 in career passing touchdowns.
That is crazy.
I like that stat.
I do too.
The History Channel matchup.
The History Channel matchup.
The two
I wonder who
guys.
the other two were. It had to be like Bart Starr or something.
If we're talking
The leather helmets.
since at least 50, it had to go back a ways.
The leather helmet guys.
All right, the second stat. We'll call this one head of the class. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. They were all first-round picks in 2018. It's the second time 3 first-round picks start in a divisional playoff round.
Dang.
The other time that happened, in 2008, when the class of 2004 picks of Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger started.
Jeez.
Love that. Love that. Can you imagine? 3 out of the same class in the divisional round. All right, and the third one. We're going to call this my kryptonite alert.
Okay.
And one of my fantasy players I had this year is on that kryptonite alert, and that's Russell Wilson.
One of our favorite quarterbacks.
Yes. 14 games this year against other teams not named the Rams. Russell had a 109.4 passer rating, was only sacked 2.5 times a game, threw for about 267 yards, and a touchdown to interception ratio of 3-1. But when he played the Rams, when the Rams brought out that kryptonite,
This hurts me.
his passer rating dropped to 73.6. He was sacked 5.5 times a game, only threw for 215 yards, 1 touchdown on average, 1 interception on average. The Rams defense is Russell Wilson's kryptonite.
It hurts my heart. Absolutely.
Oh, it hurt my fantasy stuff.
I just want him to get over the hump, man.
Yeah,
I just want him to get over the hump. But when Jalen Ramsey and those boys are there the whole time, you know, it's about to happen. So it is what it is. Yep. So that kind of wraps up our show this week, guys. We're hitting right there at an hour and 5 minutes. You know how we like to do, give it short and sweet and get you in and out. Come check us out on Thursday when Nelson comes back. We'll get some topics together. And this is the part of the season where it starts slowing down for us. So all we got is the playoff games.
Yep.
And then we head right over to the off season. So this is everybody's favorite couch quarterback.
Yeah, that's him.
Dante.
Needs a little practice with that, but he's got it.
Yeah, man, it's the sickness.
Okay.
Down with the sickness.
Gotcha.
You know. But yeah, this is everybody's favorite couch quarterback, Dante, here with the Stats Guru. Thanks for checking out the East Coast Gridiron podcast this week. Check us out on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube.
That's
for all your favorite clips. Yeah. And of course, if you're watching us here on Facebook, East Coast Gridiron Podcast, Facebook / East Coast Gridiron Podcast.
ECG, find us.
Yes, sir. Randy said, "Great show, Trevor Lawrence." I know you just had to throw that in there.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the East Coast Gridiron Podcast. Find us on all your favorite music and podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. For all the latest news and updates, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by going to eastcoastgridiron.com.